All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? Welcome back to another episode of the Remote Closing Academy podcast. And if you're ready for an energy-filled, action-packed episode, this one is going to be the one for you. And you might be saying, Aaron, what the heck do you mean? Well, in this episode, this is one of the first people that I feel like has been able to match my energy in the way that I speak, in the stories that I tell. So I was actually really excited to bring him on. So this is somebody, he's been able to, he's been in the pipeline of RCA, not even like in the program for that long. But even before that, he already knew that he wanted to jump in. It was just a matter of when for him. And, since jumping in, he's really been able to, grab the bull by its horns, get placed in an offer and see some really early successes, and being able to make a good amount of money just within the first couple months of him being in his offer. So with all that being said, don't want to spoil too much here, but if you want to listen to the rest of this, make sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode. First of all, dude, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. And hello from Hurricane Miami. I say sunny Miami, but what's going on? We're typhooning over here.
Yeah, we got Ian trying to mess things up over there, huh?
Ian's a bad dude, man. Bad dude. But thanks for inviting me on the podcast. I have been an RCA evangelist for quite some time. Funny story, I was an RCA evangelist before I even got into the program. So I'll tell you that story at some point. But yeah, happy to be here.
Love it, man. Yeah, I'd love to hear that because I think, anytime we have someone that, even before you jump in, you're already, screaming the praises of what RCA is. So let's, before we jump too deep into that, we always like to do is just rewind the clocks a little bit, before you even knew who Cole Gordon or RCA was, before you saw that bearded guy on the ads, what were you doing before all that?
Speaking of beard game, Cole is one of the masters of beard game, not just in the closing space, just in life in general. Clearly winning. So yeah, before I saw his ad on Facebook, what was I doing? I've done a number of things, some of them legal. Oh no, I was in sales for like a couple years. The broad career arc is I went to school for computer engineering. I was not always this extroverted. I was like programmer guy with a pocket protector. Code.
We'll have to take that as a clip.
Don't recommend. It's bad for the complexion to spend all day behind the computer. Honestly, I like people. I always have. I've always been curious about people. And as a developer, I was building stuff without knowing what the end problem was. And I wanted to get closer to the end problem because who knows, maybe the thing I was building was solving a problem that could have been solved without technology, just, with people. So I moved from computer engineering, software development into sales engineering, which is being the technical member of the sales team. And I was working in financial software, big honking enterprise software, being sold to big banks, trading floor, treasury. So I'm walking to like, by the way, I moved from where I went to school in Canada to New York City. And that's kind of where I kicked off my career as a sales engineer. So a sales engineer is basically an engineer who can talk real good, right? Mm. So I didn't know anything about sales, didn't know anything about commissions, none of that stuff. It was like a base salary. It was a very high base salary, but I was basically the guy who would walk in, sit across the table from all of these guys at Deutsche Bank on the trading floor. These guys are all coked up and, their suits and they're like very, very antsy. It's like, hey, what you got for us? And I basically would sit across the table from them, calm them down. It's like, yes, our software will not cost you your job. Yes, it's easy to use. Yes, it will fit into your blah, blah, blah. And then once I was finished that spiel and the people on the other side of the table were like, okay. Then the sales guy would kick me out of the room. He's like, all right, Mark, get out of here. Because I'm too technical. He's like, he just needs me for that piece. And then he kicks me out of the room. So I never saw what went on in the actual sales process, but he would always, sales guy would always be happy. He'd come back and be like, we got the deal. Let's go to the strip club. So that was kind of my first introduction to New York strip clubs as well. The first deal that I was, so that's a side story. I don't know if it's work appropriate or appropriate for this podcast.
We'll probably have to sidebar about that.
Yeah. I'll tell you about that later over a drink. So anyway, that's how I got exposed to sales. This is early 2000s. The way I got into sales is there was a Cinco de Mayo party at one of the companies I worked. My sales guy, he was an ASU grad. So if you know anything about ASU, it's like a very party school, produces a lot of salespeople. And he was just a happy-go-lucky guy. Invited me to a Cinco de Mayo party at his apartment on the Upper West Side. I walk in, his apartment is like the Seinfeld apartment. It's freaking huge. If you know anything about Manhattan, nobody has that size of apartment on the Upper West Side, which is very expensive. And then I walk out onto his balcony, and his balcony has more square footage than the apartment I'm living in on the Lower East Side. So I turned to the guy, I'm like, bro, how do you afford this? And he stops. And I still remember he was like hitting a one hitter of like weed. And he takes the weed pipe out and he looks at me like almost in astonishment. What do you mean? I'm in sales. If I want more, I sell more. Boom. Instantly, Mark at that moment became a sales guy. So that's how I discovered sales. It took me another 2 years before I actually got into a quota carrying role. But basically since 2003, I've been selling something. And I sold mortgages. I sold door to door. I sold professional services for 7 years. So tax consulting, very esoteric field, but essentially you're selling people and process. So you got to kind of package it up and make a product out of it, right? Yeah, so that's kind of the path. That's what I did before. Oh yeah, I also did consulting, sales consulting, where I had become so good at that particular type of sales, like SaaS or professional services, and I had served in so many quota carrying roles and outperformed that people were telling me, hey, you're really good at this, and you're really good at helping to level up other reps who are on your team just for free. You just do it because you like it.
Mm-hmm.
You should do that as a business. I'm like, oh yeah, well, okay. And I went off and I did consulting, which was incredibly professionally fulfilling, incredibly economically stupid, because it's just consulting is super hard. So I did that for another 7 years, from like 2011 to 2019, I want to say. And then that's what happened. I discovered high ticket sales at that point.
It's actually really interesting to hear, because you're one of the maybe out of the 10-ish episodes we've done so far, I think you and one other person has already had like that sales experience. So how was that transition from, maybe not even to like RCA specifically, but from being in person for the most part of it, being able to use that personality, what was that transition like from that type of sales into like remote high ticket sales, if anything?
That's a really great question. It was easy for me, but part of the reason it was easy is that I'm a student of humans. So as a computer engineer, I had an interest in artificial intelligence. I built an artificial intelligence chip. That led me into the study of neuroscience. The study of neuroscience led me to study NLP. So I discovered Tony Robbins, the power, what is it? Power Within, or whatever. His first book. And I read this and I go, this guy's like, he's like my personal Jesus all of a sudden. And then no, I'm just kidding. Jesus isn't real. Oh, no politics, no religion. I know, I promise you that. Sorry, I'm just kidding. But I found out that his whole spiel, I shouldn't say spiel, his whole body of work came from neurolinguistic programming. So I studied that. Point is, neurolinguistic programming is the study of programming humans through language. And it turns out that doing things in person and doing things on Zoom or even on the phone, you're still selling to people. So it was actually easier for me to sell to someone over Zoom because I can still see their body language, but I don't have to drive an hour to show up at their door and wait reception area and then go into a boardroom. Like all of that political stuff and the logistical stuff is removed. So now I'm just boiling it down to the essence, talking with a human, talking to a person. So it's actually easier for me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I would assume that, I mean, all my sales experience has been, over Zoom. So I don't really know anything else, but I'd imagine it becomes almost easier because you don't have to leave your element. You don't go into like, cause I forgot, I think maybe it's like Pitch Anything or one of those like old school sales books is, the way that a lot of those offices are built is like you wait in the reception area, and that's like to like break down your frame. Right. And then, that you waiting for it and then putting you in this position, right? It's just like they put you in this frame to where it's like you almost have to dig yourself out of that, as opposed to on a Zoom call, it's like, this is my space.
You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Sun Tzu said that the successful army wins the battle and then goes to fight. The defeated army goes to fight to win the battle. So when you walk into an office and there's all this, politics and it's almost like a trap set for you to, as you just said, break down your frame. You're starting at a disadvantage. With Zoom, you own the frame. You can go do your power pose and do a couple jumping jacks. You control the space you're in, right? So it's yours to lose as opposed to the other way where it's, yours to win.
Yeah, so exactly. So I think that's a good transition because you did the sales stuff, you transitioned into high ticket sales. How did you find RCA?
How exactly did I find RCA? Oh, I remember now. So I worked at this company. My real introduction to high ticket sales was working for a company called salesprocess.io, which is run by a genius called Nick Cosman. And he is an engineer from a rival university in Canada. I don't really like that part because he's brighter than me. So he developed a system for business that was very engineered. He basically engineered how to be successful, how to get any type of business, primarily SaaS, but how to go from 0 to 1 million in a year reliably. And it was using engineering principles. And he did this over and over and over for multiple companies. In fact, at the time I joined sales process, that he had like 1,100 clients. And I mean, most of those clients had been successful, which is a huge number of iterations. This shit really worked. And while I was working there as a setter, Cole Jordan joined. And I had seen him. Oh, I had reached out to him previously. I'd seen him on the internet and I had reached out to him probably to work for him. So he joined salesprocess.io, I guess, to scale closers.io. And I saw him join. I was a setter, but I was seeing the private student Facebook group or client Facebook group. And I said hello. And he never replied back. And I was like, yo, this guy's like super standoffish. But I get it. The way I came at him was like very fanboyish. It's like, oh, I see you joined salesprocess.io. You're part of the family. And he never responded. So I kind of kept that in mind. I was like, Mark, you really came at it the wrong way there. And then I left salesprocess.io. I was consulting and trying to do what salesprocess.io did on my own. So it was my own offer, but with fewer case studies. So it made it a little harder, right? And all along, I was watching the growth of closers.io. I saw the ads. I clicked through. I went as far as to like talk to a salesperson, basically.
But I funnel hacking, huh?
Sorry?
You funnel hacking the start of everything.
Sorry, Cole. Because I was trying to like find the best funnels to use to spin up my own offer, right? But I saw the growth of this thing. So then, funny story, I moved to Miami from Canada. I kicked Canada to the curb. I fly over here and I'm in a hostel because I can't find a place to live. Miami's very expensive. Floating around in a hostel, the youth hostels. Incredibly fun places, but I'm the only guy who is on a laptop working. Everybody else is like, yo, tequila shots. And like in the morning, jumping in the pool. And I'm over here like, and I see this other guy like months in who comes and he's like me. He's like, he sets up his laptop. He's oblivious to everything. I'm like, whoa, this is the first time in months I've seen another person in the hostel. He's like, so I'm watching this guy and we get to talking and he's very cagey about what he does. I'm like, are you independently wealthy? Like, I don't, but I see on the computer, are you a developer? He goes, no.
I'm a salesman.
Sales dude. I'm like, bet. And he comes from the solar sales background. He's like, man, I want to like do this remote sales thing. I've been trying it and I've been having trouble. I go, man, you should join RCA, is what I say to him. And he stops. He's like, huh? What? And I go, yeah. And then I launched into this long spiel about high ticket sales, how you can work from anywhere, and how the best guys in the game are closers.
You memorized the VSL.
Memorizing VSL, bro. I'm spouting it back to him. And I'm just extolling the virtues of closers.io. And he keeps looking at me and then he stops. He goes, I am in RCA. I go, what?
Yo,
remember, I am not. He turns out to be, right?
That's hilarious.
And then I go, man, I should, who signed you up? And at this time, I had been talking with Matei for about 6 months. And so, sorry, I misspoke before. I did get to the point where I was speaking with a salesperson. I went through the funnel. I did speak with a salesperson. That was Matei. And I didn't have the money just yet, at least not all up front. And Matei was very patient with me. He's like, okay, when you're ready, blah, blah. And I kept keeping in touch with him because he was Canadian and he was from the same province or state that I'm from. So I'm like, wow. And he was the only Canadian I knew on the RCA team. And he was also giving me inside information about the growth of closers.io, which is how I was able to tell this guy, Jacob, all the benefits of the program. So anyway, I go to Jacob, hey man, you should join Closers. He goes, I'm already in RCA. I go, oh, really? Man, I know this guy, Matei. And then he stopped. He's like, what? He goes, Matei's the guy who signed me up. So here we are in Miami, miles away, and two like guys meet, and RCA is a common connection, with Matei being like the common denominator. It was pretty crazy. So at that point, the seed was pretty much there for me to join, and I joined shortly thereafter.
Dude, that's an amazing story. I'm just taking down notes, and I'm like, I need to take down like this specific timestamp to show Matei, because that's awesome. I mean, like when it's cool to see. Obviously, did you go to the last event, the Ascension event? No. Okay.
I'm beating myself. I'm gonna make sure I'm at the next one.
Yeah, it's in December, so you have some time. Yeah. So no, the point of saying that is like it's really cool to see how like. Because I mean, this online world, I've been a part of it for past 5 or 6 years, but it's really awesome to be able to like meet people in person, and then when it's like that kind of like impromptu of like, oh shit, we're like in the same program, and like you didn't even know each other, and it just brings, so like that impact I think is awesome,
And I fully agree. Like the impact of RCA is that there's now a tribe of people who are connected, of like-minded people who are connected in values and goals, and also in largely in the way they do things. So to see that tribe form and see RCA's instrumental role in it is just incredible to me, because there's, from the world I came from, like SaaS sales, traditional tech sales, I'm in a couple of communities of sales people like that. Number one, they don't have this type of community, bro. They don't have this type of togetherness and moving toward a common goal. They don't. There's a lot more competition. It's like, if I win, you have to lose. If I get this AE role, you got to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
If I get this deal, you got to lose. And then the people who are doing numbers, you have no visibility into what the fuck they're doing to do that. So you can't, if you want to do real estate, you can go on the internet and like watch a lot of videos and get the idea and see different mentors and go, okay, I choose this one, and get some mentorship. It's not like that in traditional sales world, but RCA has an academy of just, it's like all the wolves found each other and made a pack, and they were like, don't fucking.
Yeah, dude, it's so funny you say that. Because I've worked really closely with Cole and have seen a lot of stuff like unravel, but that's like the first time that I've really thought about it in that way of, it's like, yes, like the community is great. And that's, I think everyone like that comes on the show is like, yeah, like community, like that's one of my favorite parts, but just the fact that it's like, it's so polar opposite between like everything else, right? Real estate industry, realtors, they're always against each other. They never talk to each other about what's working, right? Same thing within solar, within mortgage, within any of these insurance sales, right? Door to door. It's like everyone wants to keep those secrets like so close. But with RCA, it's just like, hey, this is what's working for me. Like, let's jump on a call and like mastermind and figure out how to like get shit done,
I think people who come into RCA or to high ticket sales without a sales background don't realize what they have, because it's like you just said, it's not the norm. In fact, it's a jewel in the rough. Like it's doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's jump into your journey. So you jump into RCA, and what did that look like? Just from the start.
So I landed in Miami, fleeing frozen communist Canada. Yikes. And I have some consulting. I have revenue from consulting. I have 3 clients. As I'm in the air and the plane is touching down, I lose a client. Okay, fine. I'm still at like 5K a month. We're tap dancing, we're tiptoeing. I have one full-time gig, which is not sales. It's more like marketing. And I know it's going to fall apart. It was for a short time. As it's falling apart, I've already met Jacob, told him to join RCA. He's told me, bro, I'm already in RCA. So the seat is there. I'm like, Mate, I got to get this money together and join. Then the contract I have ends. So with my last paycheck on my birthday, I'm like, Mate, I'm putting all the chips to the center of the table. Get me in and woo, let's go. And now it's like, it's do or die. There's no safety net here. I got no family, no friends. I can't sleep on anybody's couch. The end of runway is visible. It's meters away. So now we got to do something. So I immediately get into the training. I've taken sales training of every type, from Sandler to value selling. I worked at Gartner, which is a notorious sales factory. They teach value selling. It's taught at like Salesforce and some of the bigger companies. It's amazing. Until Cole's training, that was the best training I'd ever done. So I've taken about 8 sales trainings, challenger sale, fucking spin selling, you name it. And this is the best training that I've ever taken in my life. I say that because it covers the psychology, things like looping and tie downs, things like tonality. There's no other sales course you can get in corporate America that talks about it's like the neuro-linguistic programming side of things. And I always wanted a course that specifically pulled the NLP stuff out that's relevant to sales or seduction for my male viewers.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the same world. So, hint, hint. I wanted a course that pulled that stuff out and applied and showed it in practical application, not just textbook, like, here's how you tell if somebody's lying when they look left into, like, how's that relevant to help me close the deal?
Yeah.
So Cole pulls all the relevant stuff, tonality, upward inflection, neutral inflection, downward inflection, what that does to a person's psychology in the context of closing a sale. There's no other course that does it. Well, okay, maybe one other, which I won't mention on this podcast, but Cole's is the best, and it's the most comprehensive, and it's literally step by step how you close a sale or how you get the meeting if you're a setter. And I had never seen anything like that put together all in one place. So I attacked the training. I'm done in 3 weeks. And then I go into pipeline. And pipeline was the one thing that was kind of rough. It's not really RCA's fault. It's just the way things go. It turns out I talked to a very successful closer in RCA, Charles Fitzgerald Butler.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude did like 100K in commissions in August. Just a stud.
Maniac.
Like the commissions you make in a year, he eats for breakfast. He's just like, no.
Exactly.
You don't care, bro. You don't give a fuck. Anyway, so he told me he was on a couple of shitty offers in a row before he found his current one. So that was my experience. And I realized that that's actually how it works. So I entered RCA March 4th, kind of my birthday. And I evaluated a string of shitty offers and worked 2 of them. One of those shitty offers was from the RCA pipeline. The other was self-sourced. And the majority of the shitty offers that I evaluated were self-sourced, actually. So that was the struggle in the journey. So not a lot of money, moving around. Miami's really expensive, no place to live. And having a place to live is critical because this is a career which depends on you having a secure space, internet, and a laptop. These are the basics.
Yeah.
And internet and a secure space, like having people walk in your Zoom background while you're on the call, not going to work out for closing sales, right? And I'm in hostels and various temporary living accommodations. So I think that affected the offers I was working on as well. Like just showing up to the interview well, right, was maybe more difficult than it would be now that I have, the correct setup. So anyway, the journey was from March 4th. We're speaking right now, kind of at the end of September. I just worked on a number of offers, and through those offers, I learned how to evaluate offers. So it was necessary, it was painful, and I won't say that if you're watching this and you're new, you're going to have to do it, but you're going to have to do it. You're going to have some experience in the field on a bad offer to be good, is what I think right now.
Yeah. Well, I think like the important comparison to make, and I do this all the time, right? Because it's like you have to meet people where they are, and it's this amount of time. And so you said you started like sifting through offers. You said in March.
That's right.
Yeah. So March.
Toward the end of March.
Okay, so we'll say April.
That's when I finished going through the course content.
Gotcha. So if we're saying April, May, June, July, August, September, right? We'll say 6 months, right? You're sifting through offers to find one that works for you. If you were to, let's say, try to make the same money from any other occupation, go to school for 4 years or 10 years or however much to make, let's use Charles as an example, $100,000 in a single month. You're going to have to work in one of those industries for 10 years, 15 years, right? To be able to get to the senior level positions where you're making that. So I just want people to know, like, even though you're saying like you had to sift through those offers, you guys can suck it up for 6 months and get to a point where you're making that money,
Also, my situation was unusual. Picture someone just moving to a new country and they're not all set up yet. Like they're sleeping on friends' couches, let's say. That's the situation I was in. So I had an extra negative against me, which had nothing to do with RCA and nothing to do with the amount of effort I was prepared to put in that may have handicapped me. I don't think that even someone brand new coming into RCA necessarily has to spend 6 months on a string of bad offers. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there's going to be some investment in time, energy, and financial resources. And some of the time and energy piece of that investment is going to be seeing what's not going to work. It actually accelerates your progress to being a good closer. I say in my personal life, I don't trust nobody who hasn't been through hard times. So I got to know you for 6 months and see you in ups and downs before I ever trust you in my inner circle. Because if you haven't been through hard times, I really don't know how you're going to react when the going gets tough. In the same way, and just like you said, everything valuable, everything worth having is worth working for. If you skill up really quickly, you can be making $40,000 a month like Cole was before he started RCA, and like many other closers are doing right now. To get $40,000 a month, don't you think there's going to be some reps you got to take in the field? Yeah, right. It doesn't have to be 6 months like me, but especially if you're coming in with a sales background already, it definitely doesn't have to be 6 months. One thing I would say to people is to reduce that time, however long it's going to be for you to reduce that time, to really study the course modules on how to vet offers and any other content that's inside school or anywhere else. How to vet offers. If you learn how to do that, you're going to save yourself hella time. Also talk to experienced closers who are doing the do right now about how they chose the offers they're on. So talk to happy closers. You got to talk to unhappy closers too. Like, what don't you like about the offer you're on? Okay, great. Now talk to happy closers.
Yeah.
Well, what's the old saying by Tolstoy? Every happy family is alike. Every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way, right? So every closer who's unhappy is going to be unhappy for their own reasons. But you're going to find a commonality among happy closers, right? And one of the things I would say for me that makes it a compelling offer is aligned with things I'm already interested in or my passion. Now, At the beginning of my 6-month slog through offers, I devalued that. I'm like, fuck alignment. I'm trying to get to the money, bro. Who cares if I don't really like the thing? I'll look at Amazon FBA stores. I'll look at automation. I'll look at, maybe I will look at personal fitness offers, but I'll look at anything so long as it will get me to goal. And that's actually not true. It turns out the offer that works for me is aligned with a personal passion. So I would say, look for something that's aligned with your personal passion. Look for something that has good lead flow. Look for something that has product market fit, which means it's been doing, let's say 50 to 100K 6 months in a row consecutively. Look for an offer that has, to go back to lead flow, what that means is their calendar is already being booked 6 to 7 days out. So they need another closer. And whether that's the founder selling or an existing closer selling, there's already a closer. You're not the first one, right? So sorry, just off the top, those are some things that I think can help you define a good offer. And if you learn that stuff, you will definitely cut your ramp time to find a good offer considerably.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's bring back the timeline. So you come into RCA, you go through this couple of months of really refining the offer. So I'm assuming you found something that you enjoy now.
I have.
Perfect. Let's talk about it.
So in about 22 minutes or so, I have or sales huddle, and I enjoy showing up to the sales huddle because the dudes are cool. They're competitive, but not cutthroat. It's cooperative. They enjoy seeing me win. I enjoy seeing them win. Just as an example, and this is not common in the sales industry. Again, that whole mentality, for me to win, you have to lose. That's the common mentality. Here on the offer I'm selling on, I closed a paid in full yesterday, and the first guy in my on Slack to congratulate me is the second highest performing sales rep. And the only reason the top performing sales rep didn't congratulate me right away on Slack is that he was on a call. So that guy, not only, boom, he's emoticon blowing up my shit. He's like, yo, rocket to the moon, fire emoji, blah, blah, blah. And then he calls me. You know why he called me? Because yesterday he gave me some coaching for free out of his day. He broke down one of my calls. He's like, bro, here's what I would have done. And here's what I think you did wrong. He's incredibly experienced, worked on another big offer that's very similar, and did numbers. He was doing like 10,000 a week, something. No, yeah. He was making like 10,000 a week based on this other offer. And he does it in his sleep. So he just broke it down for me. And because of that advice, I used some of that to close the PIF. So that's why he was calling me. He was like, bro, congratulations. Like, bro, you know what I mean? Like, happy for me. Gave me the advice, time out of his day, happy for me. No ego, no, like, this new gun is crushing it. He told me, bro, I want to help you because I want the competition. It makes me better. Because he was complacent. He was just like, bro, I'm good. I know I'm good. Like, he lives in a 4,000 square foot house in Vegas, balling out. Like, he knows he's good. He's like, I'm good. But now he's got a reason to focus. He's like, thank you so much, and call me anytime if you need anything. Right? So the offer is amazing. It's aligned with my personal passion. It's in a field that I personally was just studying for 2 years anyway, real estate investment. So I closed a deal my first day. I closed a deal my second day. Just closed one yesterday, which was like day, I don't know, 5 or whatever. So let's just say I'm here to crush, and this offer is the vehicle to do it.
Nice. So I guess that's like super fresh on that offer then. Less than a week pretty much. What is the because everyone that listened to this podcast, like, obviously we're here for the story, but we're also here for the, like, all right, cool. So like, if I'm a remote closer, what's the money I'm going to make? So what is like the, cause you just joined, like, what is the income potential of that offer are you a setter or a closer?
Closer.
Okay. So what's like the income potential if, like, KPI essentially?
So as I mentioned, the second highest performing rep on our team. Now, he did these numbers with a competing real estate offer. He bought a 4,000 square foot house in Vegas and has like a casita. which is like a little guest house outside.
Uh-huh.
That's his office. So and his mortgage is like 8,000 a month, and he makes that comfortably. So
Oh
just
man,
have
yeah.
that in your mind. The top closer brought home $15,000 on his last paycheck, his last 2-week paycheck. So I'm not at those numbers yet, obviously, but that's the income potential. So, and I mean, that wasn't like a surprise to him, the 15,000. That was actually a bit low because he had taken some days off. He's got like 4 kids. So I think the kids were sick, so he took a couple of days off. He's like, we're at 15,000 this week.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll pay the mortgage for 2 months, and okay, but come on, let's get on it now. Okay?
Exactly.
So
It's a completely different game, when it's like this remote, just the remote world and commission world. It's like you can make those decisions of like, well, I can like, take off this week and we'll still make 25K.
exactly, and I find that for folks with families, I don't have a family, I don't have kids, but I see like folks who do, this career is so great for them because it wraps around your family life as opposed to the other way around. You're not missing soccer games. I'm regularly talking to guys, including on my team, who are like, in the background, you can hear like whistles and stuff because they're at their kid's soccer game and they're just like, it's the middle of the workday for everyone else, but they have the flexibility to choose their hours, to choose their income, essentially. Like you work the numbers, based on the lead flow you got,
Exactly.
your close ratio, you're like, well, how much money do I want to make this paycheck or this coming paycheck? Oh, okay, 10,000 will do. Next month, we're going to go for the normal 25, but we can do with 10,000. And so I adjust my work hours. I can take the kids to the doctor, to the dentist. You can show up in your life differently with that type of freedom, right? Which is the whole point.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think it's like we just said, there's so many opportunities open to it when like, because I've had like my own business and kind of like you consulting and, doing some remote closing stuff. And I will say like, from a freedom standpoint, like it's I mean, you can't compare it to anything. It's like I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day, and he's we're planning on or this was a couple of months back, we were planning to do this like trip or whatever, and it's like, well, I have to go to my boss and I have to ask if I take off and see if I have PTO, and it's just this whole long thing, and I'm just like, hey, Cole, I'm gonna be out of town this and this, and it's gone for a week, and it's just like no questions asked. It's the freedom is insane. So dude, I know you have a meeting here coming in a couple of minutes. So what would you say, because you've gone through and you've proven the process, someone that is, they might think 2 things. Number one, they are a little bit skeptical about like sales in general. And they're like, well, I know this like sales thing to be kind of like, like kind of gross. And, what would you say to that person that's kind of just skeptical about sales in general?
Couple of things. If you made it this far in the podcast or in the episode, you're a salesperson. I've found as a student of psychology that folks who think of salespeople like used car salespeople, I'm like, oh, I don't like salespeople. In the same way that some people say, oh, I don't like lawyers or I don't like doctors. They're not going to be good salespeople because they have an ingrained, for whatever reason, idea of what sales is. But all of life is sales. To transfer an idea from your head to someone else's is persuasion, which is sales. And that happens when you start a new relationship. You get the girl to go on a date with you or the guy to go on a date with you. It happens when you show up to an interview and you get hired. That's sales. All of life is sales. Negotiating the price down on the hot new ride that you've had your eye on, that is sales. The guy's selling you the car, but you're selling him a lower price for the car, right?
Yeah.
Sales. So all of life is sales. If you feel icky about sales, you probably didn't make it this far in the episode, to be honest. So that being said, there still is a traditional broken idea of what sales is. I see it a lot in the SaaS world. Here's what sales is. Sales is facilitation. It's not manipulation. It's helping people to get something they want or need, whether they know it or not, in the shortest amount of time by removing the limiting beliefs that are challenging them. That's what sales is. So you're leaving people better than you found them always. You're not strong arming people into something they don't want or need. So if you don't like helping people, sales is not for you. If you enjoy helping people and leaving them better than you found them, in other words, it's a win-win situation. In other words, people will record a testimonial for you after they buy something from you because they're like, thank you for helping me to get past X, to get what I really wanted. I did this yesterday in the PIF I closed. The guy was clearly a good fit for the program that I was promoting to him, but he had a limiting belief. He had been burned before. Aaron is
like everyone.
Like everyone.
Like everyone.
Everyone. And it's normal. And I worked with him. I came around the table and sat on the same side as him. And I showed him where I had been burned before and why that's not a reason not to invest in himself. And he was doing the work. He had a good work ethic. He was willing to invest in himself in other areas. It was just this one area. He was afraid of being scammed. Here's the thing. I send him the payment link. He finally decides to go. And then he's like, Marc, just one last thing. The email came from you. I've been scammed before. I know you're not going to scam me, but can you just have the email come from the owner of the company? And I'm like, yeah. Oh, good. So we took another couple minutes, sent the link. And he's like, okay, I can see now. It's clearly not, you know what I mean? Like he was really hung up on that thing and I helped him get over it. Bro, how good did I feel when this guy who was already investing in himself is now going to level up? I feel good. Do I get money? Yeah, sure. How does he feel? He's texting me after paying $5. Bro, thank you so much. You helped me get. Who doesn't want that? Like,
exactly.
You made it this far in the episode. Hit the RCA or the closers.io link, sign up. Like, what you doing, bro?
Well, dude, that's actually a perfect transition because I always like to start with that question, right? Getting people past their own limiting beliefs. But I mean, and obviously you're a little biased. I mean, you were basically selling RCA before you were in RCA, but what would you say to someone that's like, that has been burned in the past, right? They've tried a ton of things. They've tried Amazon FBA, drop shipping. They've tried selling their own stuff. They've tried building their own business. What would you say to that person that's just, they know they need to do something. They are like on the, they're about to click to go watch the video about RCA. What would you say to them?
I'd say, when student ready, teacher will appear. And what I mean by that is that when your why is big enough, you're gonna know. Truth resonates within the body. Nobody has to tell you something is true. You feel it within your own body. Yes, you filter experiences through you filter things through your own experiences, but you know when something is true. When your why is big enough, when you need to change your financial future, when you've watched enough videos of students, like at some point it's like, yeah, that's not fake. It's like, I've seen 4 videos, 4 different, there was a black guy, a Hispanic guy, and this guy's from Texas, this guy's from Nigeria. They weren't talking to each other. They didn't like collaborate to make, it's not fake, right? You've watched enough of those videos. You have a deep, deep need, a big why as to why you need to change your financial future. Just, can you get scammed? Yeah. Can you get hit by a bus when you step outside after watching this podcast? Yeah. It's about what are the levers you can control. If your why is big enough and you've seen enough testimonials, just do it. I'm on the inside and I can tell you your life will change.
All right, man. Well, that's, I think, the perfect transition. So if you are listening to this, watching this, and you've made it this far, down in the description if you're on YouTube or in the show notes if you're on the podcast app, we put together actually Cole. We talked about Cole Gordon a couple times here within the episode, and he's actually the founder of RCA, and he has a video where he just basically breaks down the whole process from beginning to end of like what remote closing is. We've talked about a lot about it, here with Marc, but it just goes into more of the specifics, like what is it, how does it work, how do you get paid, like just the ins and outs of that. So if you want to check out that video, I'll leave it again down in the description. Check it out. I think it's like 30 minutes long. So I mean, if you've again listened this far, you might as well just watch the video and learn more about that. So check that out there. Again, no obligation to buy anything or anything like that. It is just straight up a video. I mean, Marc's seen it. It just tells you what it is, and it gives you a little open invitation at the end if you do want a little bit more help. Obviously, you can stay subscribed here on the channel and on the podcast and learn a bunch of stuff that way as well. But yeah, check that out. So any parting words before we hop off, before you have to jump in your meeting?
I'd say sales is the field in which the levers to control income are closest to you and most in your control. So you can study for 8 to sometimes 12 years to become a doctor and make, top out at 400, 500K a year. You could, I don't know, if you got a great body, you can be an exotic dancer, and they make pretty good bank. That route was out for me, unfortunately.
Same.
Or you could do sales, help people, make hella bank. I'd say the average closer nowadays is making 10K plus a month. So you could do that, or you could do nothing. If you don't change anything, nothing's going to change. So that's also an option. I chose sales, and I don't regret it.
So before we hop off here, from what we were talking about, you actually have your own podcast that goes into the depth and detail of high ticket closers and interviewing other closers. So just where can people find that if they want to look into it?
Awesome. I do have a podcast called The High Ticket Closer, where I speak with active closers in the high ticket sales industry. We get social proof at the top of the podcast, what they're making, and then we kind of go into their journey, what they were doing before, what happened, what it's like now. And the whole point of the podcast is to speak to my former sales world, SaaS sales executives, SDRs and AEs, to show them that the skills they have are actually better used in high ticket sales, where they can bet on themselves, generate commission, and control their own destiny. So you can find the podcast right now linked off my Twitter, and my Twitter handle is Bellaccione. It's BELLACCIONE. I'm gonna have.
We'll make it easy for the ones that are listening. We'll go ahead and put it in the description as well.
Awesome. I'm working on distribution to get a dedicated handle just for the podcast, but that's where you can find it right now. And please, if you enjoy this episode that we're on here with Aaron, or you enjoy one of the episodes of the High Ticket Closer, please share it with your friends who are A's and SDRs who are complaining about not hitting quota this month.
Yeah, man. I think so. For those of you that are listening, again, we'll leave it down in the show notes. I think it's just this, remote high ticket sales right now is this almost like underground secret world that really no one knows about. So the more that we can just get this web out to more people and spread it. Exactly.
Come to the light. Come to the light.
We'll go ahead and end it there. So for those that are listening, obviously I want to say just a huge shout out to you, Marc, for spending the hour with me. I think we went over a lot of really good stuff, and I think, people will take a ton out of this. So thanks for jumping on and spending the time. For those of you, again, that are listening, check out if you're not already subscribed here on the podcast and, over on the other socials, make sure to check those out. And we'll see you guys in the next episode of the RCA Podcast. So Remote Closing Academy Podcast, Aaron here. We'll see you guys in the next one. Talk soon.